another service in another way.
Amen.
Thank you for letting us be here.
Amen.
The title of my message is going to be "Don't Go to Church, Be the Church."
Amen.
And one of the examples Christ gave us for this is in Luke 10:30-37, and it reads, Jesus was talking about a certain man went down from Jerusalem to Jericho and fell among thieves and was stripped of his clothes and beaten and wounded and departed, leaving him half dead. Now by chance a certain priest came down the road, and when he saw him, he passed on the other side. Likewise the Levite arrived in that place, and came, looked, and then passed on the other side as well. But a certain Samaritan, as he journeyed on his way, came where he was, and when he saw him, he had great compassion. So he went to him, he bandaged his wounds, pouring oil and wine on him, and set him on his own animal, which back then was a donkey, cared for him, and took him on his way to a nearby neighborhood inn. And one day, and when he got there, he actually booked his room, got in there, and he stayed with him all night, caring for him, spending time. And then he told, so when the next day when he departed from him, he had other business, he took out 2 silver coins and gave to the innkeeper and said to him, "Please take care of him, and whatever more you spend, put it on my account." So we have one main character and 2 minors. The main character was the poor man who was beaten and left along the road for dead. And 3 people walked along, and only one decided to take compassion on him. The first one was the priest. The priest actually, the way they thought, weren't doing anything wrong, because they believed in the letter of the law, and they considered a neighbor, you take care of your neighbor, the neighbor had to be of their religion, and they had to like you. So he didn't at the time think he was doing anything wrong. And a Levite did the same thing. The Levites were a socially upper class people, and they were the ones that actually got to go to the temple and speak the pretty words for the ceremonies. And then the Samaritans, they were a very despised people, very despised. In fact, they were nicknamed half-breeds. And the reason they were nicknamed half-breeds is because 700 years prior, the nation of Assyria conquered them, and they took them captive. Well, when they were taken captive, they figured out they couldn't support them anymore and feed them, so they exiled them. And when they were exiled, they mingled with the Assyrians, so they were half-breeds. So in this parable, Jesus uses the Samaritan as the hero, pointing out that it doesn't matter what you say you are. You can say you're a Christian, but do you truly live out your faith as a Christian?
Right.
And 84% of the people in the United States claim to be Christians. But let's ask the question, do you see 8 out of 10 people that you know acting out their faith? So which one of these actually being, Christ even asked the question to the temple. He said, which one of you acted in mercy and became a neighbor, a true neighbor? And someone spoke out and said, the one who took compassion and mercy on this person. Jesus said, you answered correctly, now go and do likewise. So the Samaritan chose to get off his normal everyday path and go into a divine path, which we as Christians today, and then had a hard time doing. So let me tell you about 2 real life stories that give examples of today. Everybody here knows the famous name of John Wilkes Booth, the one who assassinated President Lincoln. Very famous in his time. But nobody remembers his brother, who was a very big movie star at the time, like Brad Pitt today. What he did was an offset of what his brother did. He was so ashamed, and his reputation went down so far that he ended up quitting acting, and he was in a miserable place. And one day, on a happenstance, he was at a train station, just like any other train station, and he seen this young man fall off a pedestal, and he fell onto the track. He immediately jumped down without thinking and pulled him off in a day's time and saved his life. Well, 2 months later, the guy thanked him and went on. 2 months later, he gets a very nice letter, a thankful letter from the office of Ulysses S. Grant, who became president on down the road, but that he had saved Abraham Lincoln's son. So he said, his brother took a life, and he gave a life back. So see how God's plan works with each other. Nothing happens circumstance. God has his plan. Okay, the next one is 1939, a young man was watching a TV show, which had to be black and white, you know. And sure enough, there was a show on called Code of the Secret Service. And the person starred in this was Mr. Ronald Reagan. And when this young man seen this show, it motivated him, and his goal in life was to be a Secret Service agent. And in his struggles and his schooling and his training, he finally gets there. And then, I don't believe this is happenstance, he ends up being Ronald Reagan's personal bodyguard. And on that fateful day when the attempted assassination came, he jumped in front of Ronald Reagan, and to keep the assailant shot Ronald Reagan, but he kept him, threw himself in front, and kept him from shooting him anymore, and pushed him into a limo and took him to the hospital and was treating his wounds. And this guy's name was Jerry Parr. Jerry Parr knew at that moment that God had a plan for his life, and his whole life was formed to save this world leader. And he knew it couldn't be just circumstance or happenstance, and he became a pastor of a church in Washington, D.C. So we can see that God works things for his good. And we may not always know what that is, but we got to be open and ready. So here's the thing: we need to not worry about going to church. We need to worry about the most important thing, and that is being the church. And if that means giving a smile to somebody that's down, giving an encouraged word to somebody, giving a hug to somebody, whatever it takes. We need to act like the church instead of just going to church. And so that is the main thing that I want to get through, and I would like to have a prayer right before I leave. And I thank you guys. I mean, it wasn't long, but so So, dear Lord, I pray that you work through me what you wanted to come forth. I pray that you gave them understanding as I got the understanding when I read this, and I knew that it was what you wanted to bring. Let us quit playing church. Let us quit going to a building but not acting as we are just going to a building, because we are the church. So when we walk in that door and our fellow brothers and sisters walk in that door, We are the church. It is not the building. And the church is with us at all times, in our private life and on Sunday. So let us be your church, and when your Son, Jesus, comes back, that we might be His all and precious bride. Amen.
Very important word. Very important word. We must be the church.
That's right.
And we know that the church is a city of refuge, a place of refuge.